All right, so we have a few minutes this afternoon dedicated to discussing what the next grand challenge is going to be. And so this is what we're thinking. So we have 2 follow-on challenges. So this will be all part of Grand Challenge 4, so we'll call them sub-challenges. We get to revisit cathepsin S. So cathepsin S, Janssen actually gave us a lot of compounds. I think over 1,000 compounds with IC50 data. There's no additional structural data, I don't think. So no additional crystal structures, but we're thinking to release an additional probably a couple hundred compounds to go after binding affinities. Then there's going to be a second follow-on target, HSP90. We've seen that. Actually, this will be the 3rd time, I think, because CSAR, I believe, also ran an HSP90 challenge. This is a smaller set from Vertex Pharmaceuticals, but has crystal structures as well as binding affinity data, so we can see how well people can continue to tune their methods towards a target they've seen already before. And then we have a new target for D3R at least, which is base 1. It's an aspartic acid protease from Novartis that has roughly 16 crystal structures. I think that's going to be the final number. And then hundreds of compounds. I'll characterize it like that. And that's another set, I believe, where we might be able to hold some out. So that's, I think, our current plan. So something we have been considering, and I think we want to get the feedback from the community is when we run this challenge. So we've had a few opportunities for feedback in terms of timing of challenges, sort of recognizing that on one hand, we want to have as many of these challenges as possible with as many data sets so we can build or at least try to get towards statistical significance and rigor in testing our methods. But at the same time, the reality is that we know, and you guys, as you have told us, and we're all aware, that participating in these challenges is a pretty big effort commitment on your part. And so sometimes it's difficult to participate in every single one. So we did run a survey last year after the webinar, and we solicited a lot of feedback. And the consensus on the feedback was that folks pretty much wanted to see annual grand challenges. So we've tried to keep sort of once a year sort of pace to it, but then expand the number of targets within each grand challenge so that people have a few things to shoot at. So we were thinking, we were initially thinking of July 1st, so the month of July basically being dedicated to stage 1. And then August and September, the months of August and September being for stage 2. And actually, this is sort of incorrectly written because stage 1 is just all the information without full. You can predict poses as well as affinities, of course. So it's without structures. And stage 2 is affinity predictions, but also with structures released. But we could. So I don't know what folks think about that. Do we like July? You want to push it back? So I see Joanne, and I know we talked about it at dinner last night. She and also the way we're thinking that it would be good that they would have the summer to work on enhancing their methods and then actually try them out in the fall. But I mean, with this kind of stuff, we basically, D3R tries to, listen to what the community sort of wants to do. I mean, at this point, I think the earliest we would be ready to launch it would be 1st of July. We could hold it back a little bit. We probably don't want to hold it back until, next year or something, but. Okay, that's good to know, right? So July overlaps with CASP and Capri, which could be troublesome for folks in our community. So how long does their challenge go for? Okay. September 1. What do folks think about a September 1 start date? I feel like I need to have an auction. September 1. Do I hear September 15? September 1's good. Okay, I see a second demotion on September the 1. We can also. Okay, we could also survey that. It's easy enough to do actually. So. All right, we were also thinking to really try to encourage folks to think about automating some of their workflows to try to make this post-prediction stage to be submitted in calc format, which is pretty much just a file formatting exercise. So we thought maybe it would help people sort of start to take some steps to at least look at what kind of data we that we ingest for those. Jeff, can you describe, yeah, do you want to get the microphone? Or you want to come up here in case people on the webinar, just come on up, you can get the exact details.
So I believe the CALP format is pretty similar. The folder structure is specified as there has to be a folder with the prediction code that you're making or the target that you're predicting. And then inside of that folder, there has to be a PDB file with the receptor structure that you used for the prediction, and then a mol file with the ligand. And I think that's the same as the current JC format. But you know, it would just be specific file namings. And the trick would be that somebody could do it manually and they could compile it in the correct format with the correct folder names, and then our server could validate it when it comes in. Or if they're already a participant in KELP, I think we'd be able to just pass them a special pseudo weak challenge package, and their workflow would run on that and send it back.
All right. That's our brief update for GC4. And David was going to possibly say something about sample, the next sample challenge. And John.
Yeah, so part of what I don't think I can say much about the upcoming sample challenge since we're trying to collect data and we don't have funding for it. So things are still sort of up in the air, although I know Meetup is working some on data. So do you want to say anything about what the current plan is on that front?
Yes, as long as Meetup is willing to continue to collect data, I think we were going to see if log D data could be collected. So she's collected some pilot data there. I think the idea would be that we would give you the PKAs that we've already predicted for this challenge, and then you would predict using those to see if we can do substantially better than last year in predicting log Ds, because we think PKA was the main determinant. But you know, beyond that, sort of we've relied upon the kindness of strangers to contribute data and laboratory equipment. We're hoping that there will be some funding at some point that we can make more targeted challenges, but at this point, it's still highly uncertain.
So basically, I think like concrete plans that have a well-defined timeline and are announced well in advance will tend to wait until we actually have funding. In the meantime, it will wait and we'll have sample challenges when we have a critical mass of data, and it's been long enough since the last one. So Bruce Gibb and Lyle Isaacs usually have always, every time we've asked, they've been willing to gather the requisite data for a host guest challenge. And we really like to be able to give them some money for that eventually. But in the meantime, we just keep asking and they say yes. So that's nice. So I think, you know, a critical question for especially industry people in this room is, do you have instrument time and people time you could use to start building up a bolus of data connected to some of the things we've been talking about that could be fodder for a future sample challenge? Or are there ways you could contribute to perhaps, I suppose hypothetically we could get together in an initiative that could help support sample that was funded by a group of industry people, perhaps.
We'll be sitting around a collection plate after this talk.
Right. So anyway, things to think about. Let us know if you have any ideas. I mean, the thing that we have a lot of support for is if we can provide people to send to industry. Lots of people have volunteered equipment time to measure specific properties. The hard part is for us to have people and money to pay those people.
And if there's any requests, as always, shoot us an email, because we're always looking out for what will be most valuable to the community. So if there are specific physical properties, like one thing we'd love to do is solubilities through one of these next iterations. So if there's things you have your heart set on, then let us know.
Yeah, is there anything we should discuss on that front?
How many people would be interested in solubility? Good.